We love seeing beautiful faces, and we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. I'm getting ready to introduce our hostess, Jen Nolan from Remission Nutrition, and today we are going to be talking about nourishing the nervous system. A fabulous topic, might I add, during this December, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, wherever you are in celebration mode. December tends to be a little, how shall we say, a little more elevated. Is that a nice positive word, Jen?
I love it.
Yes. So, again, I'm Stacy Fritz, and welcome to Food for Thought. I am the host, and I am co hosting today's session with Jen Nolan from Remission Nutrition. Today's topic, as I mentioned, is nourishing the nervous system. And I am going to kick it off straight away and ask Jen. Jen's going to be on the hot seat for the entire hour. And I'm ready for it because, like I said, I say this every month. I love this topic. I love this topic, but I really appreciate this topic and I really appreciate your wisdom as it comes from the direction of for folks who are on the cancering journey, those who love somebody on the cancering journey, and of course, the person who's on the cancering journey. Jen, what does it really mean when you hear nourishing your nervous system? What should somebody think when they hear nourishing your nervous system? What does it mean in plain language?
It means, in my opinion, it means calming. So how
Mm,
can we calm our nervous system? Because if our body is in, we all hear about that fight or flight place, and we're in fight or flight, we're running around, we're react. That does make an impact to our physical and, of course, our mental, but makes an impact to our physical. So if somebody isn't always in fight or flight, and they might be eating this beautifully perfect diet, they
mm,
still may have trouble, say, for instance, with blood sugar regulation.
right.
Because if we're really fiery or fight or flight react, we can have higher blood sugar. And that's one of the things that we're trying to always calm. So, nervous system, calm, that is where we want to be. Then, if we have something happen that requires the nervous system to react, we can. Still, that is an innate thing in our body that we need to have happen. If we need to move quick, we can.
Mm,
But we want to have a calm nervous system so we're not always jumpy and always reacting and always it can even cause inflammation
right.
indirectly
Right.
or sleep, all the things. So calm. Does that help?
It really helps a lot. So basically, what Jen is saying, there's two parts to our automatic nervous system, and she's talking about one part, the fight or flight, which there is a good reason for it, right, Jen? Our ancestors, they needed that for safety, being chased by that, so to speak, tiger or lion or bear. But we also need to be on the other side, that place where you just said calm. And the problem is the way we're living these days, we tend to be stuck over here in that fight or flight and having a hard time coming into what Jen is referencing as calm, right? So, if that is true, let's just make sure that our listeners understand what does it mean when somebody says to have a dysregulated nervous system. Yes, I'm being repetitive, but I just want to make sure that we're entering the conversation where everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. And that word regulation and dysregulation, sometimes I think those of us who are in it, we tend to use jargon that maybe some others don't quite understand. So, what's the opposite of calm?
Yeah, opposite of calm would be that sort of, I would say that nervous energy, again, not being able to sit,
Mm,
not being able to be. So
mm,
if we're constantly needing to do distract, go again, we have a hard time turning off. Right? So
right.
that might be the opposite, is a harder time turning off or shutting down.
Right.
And we all have different personalities, right? So some of us are it's a little harder for us to go and
Are you
head.
looking at me? Are you
Oh,
looking
I
at
did. I
me?
mean,
I'm just kidding. Are you saying? I'm just
right.
teasing you.
But I do have people that even are like, I can't take a bath. I have too many things I need to go do. I need to go do. Right. And so that's something to think about and really look at. And it doesn't mean you have to give yourself a label like, oh, I'm dysregulated or I'm a stress case or I'm a this. But are you paying attention and can you calm? If our nervous system is, say, in fight or flight, or we are distressed or harder time to like turn down the dial, our digestion might not work very well, right? So there's another physical impact. If our digestion isn't working very well, we might not be able to absorb the nutrients. We might have maybe not as great of immune function. So I
Mm,
think that's really important just to remember this connection between the brain and the body and the gut
yeah.
is so massive and so calm. And again, we always laugh because my family now, they gave me a nickname called Zen Jen, which is very much, mhm.
I
And I
love that.
ever call myself that, but I feel like in more recent years, I have a better ability, and it's taken me a lot of time to figure it out, to dysregulate or calm my nervous system with all of these different sorts of things. Everybody talks about self-care,
Mm.
which I think is really important, especially during this time. How can we calm?
And to your point, if fight or flight is keeping us climbing up the tree away from the tiger, the other side, the words are rest and digest. So it goes in hand. So when we think about calm, it's not just that feeling of this trying to calm the heart rate, trying to calm the blood pressure, trying to eat when our digestion is going to be at its best. It's really understanding how do we toggle between the two, right? And so I think that's what we're going to get into today. I just talk to us a little bit about when we talk about nervous system regulation and staying in that calm place or getting ourselves the ability. One of the challenges I think is happening right now is not only are we talking with folks who have gotten this diagnosis, which that in and of itself, the anxiety wrapped around this is huge. And then we throw in a month like December where we still have to do the things, right? We still have to meet the demands of day to day. And now we're talking about really getting stuck sometimes in that fight or flight. So, in your general opinion, what are some big bucket items that we can talk about today for nourishing our nervous system, which I love that title. I love that title. It's not saying we're fixing anything. We are just honoring our nervous system as a part of us. And then how can we take care of it without using necessarily the word self-care? What are the big buckets that you would suggest?
I think, everyone might be a little different. And one thing I wanted to say really quickly is that even when someone might seem very chill, very calm, they might internally not be. So
Yes.
I want to recognize that because there are a lot of people that can put on the happy face and they're like, grin and bear it, or I'm going to just get through this. Everybody else is going to think I'm all good. It's great. And that's like that peacekeeper personality that doesn't necessarily always speak their truth to protect others. And I think that's important if that is someone, if that is you, or if you have a little bit of that. I certainly can sometimes recognize that and love on that part of yourself and just be gentle because you don't always have to have that. I'll do it all. I'll take care of everything.
So the
Don't.
question is, are you always Zen Jen? Because
Oh,
me personally, knowing you the way that I do, your voice is
mm,
so incredibly calming all the
yes.
time. So
Mm.
is it always, or sometimes you can feel a little wired?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so I really, like I said, have been, I think once I turned 50, that was a really good turning point for me in my, and that's probably when that nickname came around. And it's mildly a joke, right? It's making fun of me a little bit, but I am much more calm and I am able to recognize when I'm having some certain behaviors that are like, ooh, maybe not so much. So, big picture, I think again, we're all different. For me, I can connect to myself and my Zen when I move. So
Ah,
oftentimes during the holidays, we're so busy, we're going from place to place, we're expecting all these things, we might not be exercising as much. And so move, and it doesn't need mean I need to go to the gym, but to be out in nature, and maybe that's with others or by myself, that can really help regulate me and or calm me. So being big picture, some of those tools. The other is sleep.
hmm.
If I am not in my normal sleep routine, then I'm a mess. I'm not as easily able to calm myself maybe the next day or the day after. So these are all sort of obvious things, but without using that term self-care,
Mm,
make sure that those foundations are still being taken care of, even though we're going through maybe a little bit of a different time. We go through these holidays every year.
right.
So it doesn't need to be like, oh, everything just gets totally turned upside down. We can still be in our normal and then have the celebration around it. That does
And
that
the
make sense?
body very much appreciates
Mm.
routine, and that tends to be quite calming. But what I hear you saying is if we're not going to use necessarily the term self care, which I think when people hear that in December, they're like, okay, that's just enough because who can really care for self when we're caring for a bunch of other people at the same time? However, to your point, pick your joy. It's the checklist to what disrupts stuck energy. And movement, I would agree, is a huge one. So for Jen, it's a walk, or maybe it's a hike. For maybe somebody else, it's Zumba, or it's lifting weights, or it's just getting up and just taking a little bit of a break. What you're doing is you're sending that nervous system a message. We're going to disrupt this pattern of anxiousness and we're going to change that. So the input is really what is, I think what you're saying is shifts us out of that. So if movement is one, sleep is a second, which is hard to do, right? We're going full throttle. We're trying to take care of ourselves. We're trying to heal. We're trying to take care of others. Again, a lot going on in the month. Sleep, how do we position that in a way where you are prioritizing that? You are putting that above whatever else is going on. So I think it's hard. I think it's really challenging. But if I understood I think what you're trying to say is keep in place the things that you know that the body is really craving, right?
Mhm.
Food,
Mhm.
because that's your big umbrella.
Yeah.
Can foods really regulate the nervous system? And if yes, tell us more.
Yeah. I think it's a really great question and it's so important. And I want to say too that if we're on a cancer journey, which I'm guessing a lot of us are, right, in the room that are listening or someone, their loved one. So if, say, you have someone who you're supporting that's on a cancer journey, then definitely recognize that and do whatever you can within reason. So you're still taking care of you to help them take care of themselves.
Mm.
So it's not you're going to be their caregiver, maybe you are, but help them, allow them, and give them permission. Because I think a lot of times, so maybe we have a certain role in our family or our friend group or whatever it is. And if we're dealing with a cancer journey, our role might need to change a little bit. And I think giving ourselves permission to really truly put ourselves first, maybe if we can wrap our head around that, that some other people can come in and take that part of that role.
Mm.
And that's a big thing, right? That can be letting go of some control that we might have or some expectations on ourselves, but giving ourselves a break and really like allowing that to happen. So I think that's one thing that I wanted to say. And now I totally forgot what your question was.
You're great because that's really super important, Jen. I think that to your point before we move to what the umbrella of food, I feel quite strongly too, especially as a female role in terms of mothering and whatnot, that this becomes quite elevated. And if you are somebody who is also caring for somebody on the journey, or you are that person, giving yourself permission. I know that sounds probably a little cliche, but giving yourself the pause to say, what can I give away that would give me a little more space to be able to take a deeper breath, to be able to take a gentle walk, to be able to cook the one thing that I love, but not everything else. It's hard for some of us to raise our hand and say, not only, this is not just help. We're not asking for help. We're asking for co-creation of the holiday, co-creation of the healing journey. What can we do? Where is the strengths? But I also think it's a tremendous opportunity. Instead of looking at it this, oh shoot, I need help. I think reframing it to it's much more fun when everybody is involved. And I think sometimes I'll speak for myself. Sometimes it's a control thing. Like I've always done it, so why wouldn't I continue to do it? But having older children now and people that are more than capable and wanting to help, there's a secret surprise in that I think that if our listeners would love to, I would love to hear from Trudy Beautiful Rose Hart, if you would agree. Can you give away a couple of things in December that would bring you joy and not disrupt what you feel your role is during the holidays?
Oh boy. This is the first year that I'm not at work for the entire December.
Mm.
So part of the house is full of boxes and they had Christmas trees and decorations and stuff. And one of the things when I'm done, I'm gonna go out and we had snow. I'm in the Northeast in New Jersey, so I'm gonna go and get well, I just swept the stairway going down, and I'm gonna do the door and the outside, and there are things that I can do that others can't do in the sense that they're not home during the day, have the time and stuff. And artistically, I'm the supervisor of an art department. There, that brings me joy, and it's not necessarily work, but it's work. So it's Zen work.
Ah,
It's creativity. The cooking, being a former home economics teacher for 6 years, brings me joy, but it's work.
yeah.
So I don't know where to draw the line between giving some stuff over to others because I'm gonna make this thing taste and look better than anybody else could. I have my table already done for the Christmas holiday. I went out and I got a certain bread pan so I could make the flaxseed bread because I don't have a handle on the other one that we did the other day. What was it? The sourdough.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But
That's
the
okay.
flaxseed is supposed to like 1, 2, 3 Sarah Hill flaxseed bread with salt, water, and water, salt, and just the flaxseed and bake for an hour. So I'm gonna try that and see how
Rudy,
it
it sounds
goes.
to me like, you know what the best part about this is? That you're thinking about it. That's what I
Yeah.
love. And that's what these conversations are about, is just to give you what I'll call little thought joggers from an expert like Jen that teaches
Hmm.
us we cannot do it all, but we
Yeah.
can find a place to begin. And our hope today is that you do just what you're doing. Make a list of the things that are bringing you joy and do as
Hmm.
follow what Jen said. How
Hmm.
can this stay in that Zen arena that is not pulling you over to that fight or flight? And you have so many talents. This is part of the problem, right? You're so good at what you do. What in the world would you ever give up? But I invite you
Hmm.
to, I'm going to follow her lead and find, again, big bucket categories. We've talked about movement, we've talked about sleep, we're getting ready to talk about food. And then you, Trudy, get to decide where to begin.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jen?
I love it.
So, you want to take over here and let's move on to
Food.
things that might be more grounding in the food arena.
Love it. Yeah. This is great because sometimes it's not necessarily, it's not always about what foods to eat. It's about sometimes how to eat them, what times, and what to eat them with. So, one of the things that when I think about nervous system and that fight or flight or that angsty kind of stressy feeling, it can come from sometimes coffee, so caffeine. So that's interesting. So caffeine might be a little bit more excessive when we're off work, we're hanging out more. So thinking about that and how it might affect you. It can also affect sleep. So if you can still keep your caffeine maybe to the early hours of the day rather than later in the day, that can be helpful. If you're like really craving a hot drink in the afternoon, maybe it's something that's a little bit different. You could do a turmeric milk kind of a thing that can be really soothing and lovely. Why am I thinking like a turmeric latte, I guess is what it would be. You could do something like that. You could have hot tea that can be really nice, like a cinnamon ginger tea, but things that are a little bit more calming. Teas in general, there are a lot of herbal teas that are non-caffeinated that have that effect or can have that effect, right, on our nervous system. So rather than leaning into caffeine. That's one thing. The other thing is sugar. Sugar is a stimulant. So if you're tending to eat more of that, which oftentimes we do during the holidays, just recognize that is something that can stimulate you. Your blood sugar spikes and then it can come crashing down. And we talk about this so much with our clients, right? How to not be on a blood sugar roller coaster. And if you've worked so darn hard not to be on that roller coaster, and then the holidays come and then everything gets thrown out the window, it can be a little bit tough on your body, but it can physically, and it can also be harder to get back on track. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and I love this analogy of a tightrope. So it can be really hard to stay on a tightrope. It's really hard. It really takes a lot of effort. And if you watch a tightroper, they sway a little bit, right? So the rope moves, it sways from side to side. Then if you notice, and there's a lot of people that do slack lines too, that's another fun thing that has the same analogy. So if the slack line or the tightrope starts to really sway, they're done. They're falling off. So if we can stay in that light sway during this holiday season, it's going to be a lot easier to keep in balance. So what I mean by that is, like, sometimes people will have a couple bites of, say, a dessert. And then they're like, oh, it's 8 p.m, everybody's left, and I'm going to go get back into that pie or whatever it is. And they'll start to go a little bit big. And I can guarantee that person the next day is going to want more of that pie. So we open up the floodgate a little bit with sugar in general. So we get out of that calm little sway. And then it's harder to bring it back to balance. So being really mindful of sugar is something that can definitely help the nervous system through this time. Also, that sugar, especially in the evenings, I was talking about timing. So if we're eating after dinner time or drinking alcohol after dinner time, that can also throw off our sleep. It's a lot about, like, timing. So, if we're a snack, dessert, we're going to throw ourselves off a little bit. So if you're going to have a little bit of something of dessert, say you have your dinner, then you have it right after dinner. That will help support your blood sugar. So a few bites of something. And everybody's different, right? Everybody's on a different program or plan. But that's my advice, is if you are going to have something that's a little bit more sweet or sugary or carby, I would say, have it right after a meal, not in the middle, certainly not late at night. So that could be another consistency. So one of the things I usually like to say for a rule of thumb is that if you can not eat for about 13 hours, 12, 13, maybe 14 hours, that is a really wonderful rule of thumb for, I believe, most people. So if you stopped eating at 7 p.m., you could eat the next morning at 8 a.m. or 9. And so just consider that as a really helpful tool, even through the holidays. Maybe
Like a short little fasting window, if you will,
yeah,
to kind of let the body kind of chill.
exactly. Yep. And then I like that rule of thumb of about 3 hours between dinner and bedtime without food.
Mm.
That's where you lean into those really calming teas, or even teas that might help the digestion, like peppermint, ginger, chamomile can be really nice for folks in the evenings, just to calm. There's so many different blends out there now that are specific for calming, right?
I love that. So, just to recap, Jen, so for the folks that are listening that want those real things you can do nuggets, what I heard you say is two strategies. You've given us a lot, but these two nutrition strategies: put 12, 13 hours in between eating, one, and then put 3 hours between your last meal and bedtime. Utilize the grounding teas, those more gentle teas, and the other part of it, another different umbrellas, add some movement in there. So for those listening who really love that tactical, the information, I want to do something with this, not just theory. I think that you've given us just quite a few really great ones. The one I'm going to ask for in the show notes is, do you have a turmeric latte that you love that you would be willing to share?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have one that I'm going to put in there that I'm
Oh,
calling
good.
the immunity shot. which
Okay.
is ginger and lemon and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. It's
Mm.
delicious. It's a little spicy, but I feel like I'm keeping the, I'll call them critters, like the bugs away in December because cuts it. So those two would be terrific. Those are two great strategies. Let's go a little bit deeper because, again, not knowing everybody who's on the call, I want you to talk about grounding, nourishing practices if you are in active treatment. So let's just say the anxiousness, the fight or flight is high, and we are going through chemo, radiation. We're actually doing the thing. We're sitting in that office, putting you a little bit on the spot, but is there, besides what we've already talked about, are there practices in place that we can address nervous system regulation while we're in real time treatment?
Yeah. And I've maybe said this before in this group, but one of the things is working, obviously, prayer, I think is so important. And I think that gratitude. So being in gratitude, and sometimes it takes a little bit of forcing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to sit and go in my head, maybe, or in prayer while I'm sitting in that chair. Maybe I'm writing my gratitude down. I'm thinking it. That can be really helpful. The other thing that I hear this a lot, and I've been talking about this for years, but I hear people come and they're like, have a very negative feeling about some of the therapies,
Mm,
especially like chemotherapy. And
right.
they talk about it being toxic, poison, things like that. So there's this languaging around the treatment sometimes, not every time, but I hear it a lot where it's like, this poison that I'm going to go get my poison or my toxic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what if we could think about that as, I always call it like my healing love potion or healing potion, whatever it is, that serum, the healing love serum, something, if you can visualize that while you're sitting and actually think that and breathe into that and pray around that, that is a really beautiful way to, again, it calms the nervous system. Breath can be really helpful. So if you feel that, of course, Stacy, we know what really can help, but the breath. So I just learned a new breath that was, I think this is correct, but you take two quick,
Breath. Yeah.
yep, inhales and
Yeah.
then a long out.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
through the mouth. That was one it's been actually
Amazing.
researched and it's incredible. So you can do that anytime, but
Yeah.
especially when you're there. And also music therapy, please don't use earbuds, but
Mm,
use a wired headphone, listen to some calming music.
like
You know,
heart coherence, like you can find
yes.
all of those on Spotify. This is why you're my sister in this world. I think everything you said, I'm like, yes. Everything you are talking about just speaks to me so sincerely because your body is listening to you. And I know that statement from both of us sounds like it's woo woo, but trust me when I tell you it is not. And if you go into a situation, we are essentially your brain and your body is really smart. And if you consistently are talking about poison and you're listening. So we need to change the narrative and work on this visualization and listen to these energy arrangements in music and use the breath, which we know is so incredibly powerful. All things that Jen and I both specialize in. I can't tell you exactly how to do the thing in nutrition. I feel 1000% confident that I can work on the periphery and paying attention to how we feel in the moment, exactly where we are, and exactly as Jen talks about, finding the modality that brings that. There's no other way for me to explain than just this. What makes you exhale? That's where you spend the time on this part of the conversation. What brings your shoulders down? What allows a longer exhale in this beautiful Voloma breath where that's 2 sips of air in and a really extended exhale? She is spot on, spot on. So tell us more. You got some
I
more
just
for
wanted
us?
to, well, I do. I wanted to say another thing about the food piece around this too. So everybody, if somebody's in active treatment and they're needing to go to the infusion room and all that, sometimes, you know, first of all, bringing nourishing warm things can be helpful. There's some therapies where they don't want you drinking super cold or super hot. So just remember that. But if it's appropriate, like warm broth in a thermos that you can sip on, or again, these warm teas. So you're not getting bombarded with, hey, you want some Jello? Hey, you want some cookies? Especially this time of year, because you know that those things are going to be really prevalent in those rooms. So coming with soup. I find that in my experience with my clients that warm and cooked foods, especially when undergoing healing treatments, is really helpful. So the body can just deal with it better. Right. So if we're putting a lot of raw things, I just had a conversation with a client this morning, a lot of raw things or a lot of cold things that can be a little bit tough on our system. And so think nourishing. When I think nourishment, I think warmth, I think soups and cooked things. Yeah.
Love that. You had a great comment. One of somebody you've worked with, Marissa, she says, I worked with Jen when I was getting chemo, and all her recommendations got me through. Lynette says, yep, my husband uses these techniques and they're very helpful. So I think it's, again, if we all were able to slow down a little bit, and yes, you've probably heard a lot of things that Jen has been talking about, but the reality is hearing them and putting them in practice are two totally different things, right? We say we're going to do the thing, but it's an awesome opportunity, a great window to say, listen, I'm giving myself permission not to do everything, but I really liked what she said about this. And I really liked what she said about this. I don't think I can get to this one right now, but that's my invitation is it's not one more thing for you to do because you're going to eat anyway. You have to eat, right? How you choose to show up and the language that you use, you're going to use language, so why not shift it? So the things that you have to do already, maybe we just tweak them just a little bit. I love those things. I really do. And what I really like is that you introduced my passion as well, which is breath work. And just to be clear, look at all the different pockets of places to begin. Movement and exercise, sleep, nutrition, breath work, prayer, journaling. This truly, and all of these, whether or not you're on the cancering journey or not, these are things that you can put in place that will make a more fully expressed, happier you in 2026, which, I mean, who doesn't want that? So I'm going to pause for a second, Jen, give you a break to be able to take a sip of your Nourishing and make sure that we don't have any questions. So you take a sip of your Nourishing latte, and I am inviting questions right now. So now is the time. If it's not you specific, you are welcome to put in the chat. Trudy was brave enough to come on camera, which I love her for. It's always so nice to see a human face. Please, if you're not comfortable coming on camera, I'm giving you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. We do have a comment, another one from Lynette. She says, I just completed the 3-day fast with Dr. Nasha, and the concept of warmer foods as we move into the winter season was very pivotal for me and made a huge difference that I had not expected. Lynette, true statement. There is an idea wrapped around Ayurvedic nutrition, which says, just like we know, eating seasonally, and then also knowing in the winter months we tend to be colder, that choosing warmer foods it's actually a thing. I'm thrilled that you saw benefit of that because I agree. And if you notice, and if you sit there quietly with yourself, you'll notice not only does your palate, your desire for kinds of foods and the temperature of food, it does change seasonally. I'm not real hip on drinking hot tea in the summer. I do, but that's not necessarily my first choice. But first turn of weather, boy, does that, the ice comes out and the tea bag goes in and it's warm all day long. So I love that idea. Yeah, Lynette said the same thing. Now I have to give up my ice cold water for the season. Let's see.
I will say too that with the fasting, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll just say it really quickly. One of the tactics that I use, and I use this for travel, I also use it for certain times when I know I might be a little bit like, may eat a little bit more at a certain event, like a holiday party or something like that. And I might fast that day and use that meal, as long as I'm not still going to go off the rails and eat a ton of cookies and all the things, but I might eat a little bit more or something like that. I just set myself up for success, and I go maybe fasted or not eating a ton earlier in the day. And so that can be really helpful if you're comfortable and metabolically flexible and all those things to fast, but hydrate like crazy, have some salt. It can be a really lovely way to go into a party. So I just wanted to.
No, I agree. As long as true, I find that doing that too, it for whatever reason that tends to curb, that doesn't make me more hungry. When I pay attention to the nutrition prior to, and I just want to say something about you as well. I just want to note that Jen's choice not to eat the cookies and the candies and all the treats, the way she said that, it's an invitation for all of us. When you get control over the foods that make you feel great, that statement does not feel as jarring as it might to somebody who enjoys the Christmas treats. So nobody is saying, Jen is not saying don't do that. And I am going to put myself in the same bucket. I have gotten myself to a place where it's not that I didn't love the cookie, I did. I didn't love how the cookie made me feel the next day. And I got myself to a place where that was no longer something that I craved. And I would prefer to have that warm cup of really awesome bone broth. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. And it's not necessarily a goal. It's just an invitation to be curious. That's what we're saying. Because I've told you a million times before, I'm a recovering Mike and Ike, Swedish fish, anything jelly bean. I'm embarrassed to say it because it's the most engineered, disgusting food ever. But I loved me a good jelly bean. But here's what I noticed, and I'm teasing and I'm picking on the jelly bean. When you move away from those kinds of foods, your body does not crave them. That is true. Coming from me, that is a big statement, right? Because I did love the jelly bean. And so pick your jelly bean, whatever it is. It is a way to reframe what makes you feel good and what nourishes the body as opposed to stealing from the body. That's what she's saying, I believe. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I am not perfect, nor do
Me
I.
either.
And I think somebody earlier said the language being neutral, and I love that. So I
Yeah.
try not to give a bad or a good label to anything. And I think that's really, really beautiful. And you're right. Like I don't crave things the way I did, but I personally know myself, and that whole pie thing is real for me.
Yeah.
So if I open up a floodgate, I'm in trouble the next
Right.
day. I just want more. And I don't want to have that argument with myself. So that's what my choices are, but that's
So
everyone's.
Jen's jelly bean is pie. You
Yeah,
got it? Pick your jelly bean. You do have a question.
good.
Two questions. What are your thoughts on miso soup? And then how do we handle fiber smartly to prevent constipation? Two totally separate questions, but just putting it out there and I can remind you if you want to answer one.
That's awesome. I am a fan of fiber helping with constipation. Everybody's different. I think that if I'm understanding, I will say if someone is constipated, again, everyone's different. Hydration can oftentimes be a biggie. So can movement. So if you find yourself sitting a lot, moving, getting that going, sometimes you can look online for the correct way to do abdominal massage gently. Also hot and super hot beverages can stimulate a bowel movement, which on the other end, if you have diarrhea, especially if you're undergoing treatment, then sometimes the super hot drinks might not be as helpful because they can promote those bowel movements. So I know that was a bigger answer, but it goes both ways. So back to, I don't know if that answers the question around fiber. Again,
She says, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it
perfect.
was good. And and Eliza also wanted to know, what are your thoughts on miso soup?
The miso soup. So miso soup is more of a fermented, it's a soy product. So there's a lot of, I won't use the word, maybe I'm going to controversy, but there's different opinions about soy and it really depends on the person. However, I think miso soup can be lovely.
Yeah.
Make sure it's very high quality and organic.
Yeah, good. I'm happy to hear you say that. I didn't know the answer to that question either. Again, it goes back to the sourcing of our foods and then also leads me into a beautiful segue about you, again, knowing what your body responds to in a healing way. And how do we know that? We know that by working with professionals like you. I have a question that is very broad. And so this information about nourishing the nervous system is perfect for this time of year, but we have 11 other months that we need to tackle, and there's going to be a variety of stressors there as well. When somebody comes to you, could you just give us the 3 or 4 minute of what it's like to tackle all of this with you? What is the process that someone coming in can expect? Because I think part of the worry is that there are so many professionals involved with the person that's on the cancering journey that sometimes it feels like one more. And
Mm.
I know differently, but I would love to take a moment and give you the opportunity to explain, like, what is it like to work with Jen on all of these things, December and then the other 11 months?
Yeah, it is an ongoing process, right? And that's really hopefully important to me. What I do, I feel like mostly is I meet everyone where they are. So I take a lot of intake, of course, and I know people get really tired of intake forms and portals and all of that. We use a portal because it is HIPAA compliant, so that's important to us. It also helps keep us organized. We typically meet, our initial consultation is like 2 hours. So we really, like, I am the one of people's team. I'm the one that gets to spend the most time with people, to be honest. And it's beautiful. I feel really blessed for that. So it's more than just talking about food, it's very holistic. So when I say I meet you where you are, I get to know you and find out where the places are. These, I would like to call them opportunities, right? So I'm looking at you as a human, as a bunch of systems. Like, we look at, what is your inflammation like? What's your lifestyle like? How much are you moving? What's your circulation like? What's your stress? What's your mental, emotional well-being? That's my favorite sort of arena. Obviously, what is your food like? And then I'm meeting everyone where they are. So I am educating, coaching, and every single person I meet with is different. It's
Yeah.
so awesome. So why would you need me or someone else that's doing this sort of holistic nutrition, terrain, metabolic health work? It's because I believe that we can complement whatever path you're taking.
Yeah.
So with conventional care, like if it's chemotherapy, radiation, we can utilize a lot of this to help with side effect mitigation.
Mm.
It's amazing. That's one of the best things we can do, is we can help people with side effects. If the side effects are lessened because of their lifestyle and their food and things like that, then they can sometimes be able to do treatment. Sometimes if people's, say, blood counts drop or they're so sick, they can't continue treatment. So that's one really beautiful thing about what we do. And
Because
again,
you're looking at their labs. And so
yeah,
this is targeted. Jen, I
yeah,
think that there's some confusion. This is not a generic, Jen is telling you what to eat, when to eat it. When she's saying meet you where you are, that you're coming to that appointment with a story. She's listening to that story, and then she's not only filling in the gaps, but she's looking at what's been done already with real-time data. That is the thing that I cannot do. And so the specialty area, yes, we all have to eat, we all have to handle the nutrition, but what we're talking about is an elevated service where somebody who's on this journey, we're looking at numbers and where they need to be and where they are presently. And then Jen is coaching all the different ways, and I'll use it to come back into balance. That's what the goal really is to find this place where healing can be ongoing. And only somebody like her can do something like that. And so I share that with you, not to plug Jen, but to explain to our listeners that yes, we believe big, we understand completely. There is a lot of people on your soccer team, right? But Jen, for me, is a missing player when we're looking at trying to address such a large component of healing, right? All those different buckets we talked about are things that she addresses that
Mhm.
perhaps maybe we're not getting elsewhere. We all have our strengths, and this is her lane. So I'm going to pause for a second and give our listeners an opportunity to ask any questions. Lynette says, got another compliment there, Jen. You provide such an important part of healing that is not addressed elsewhere. So thank you, she said.
And I just want to be clear that I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm a coach, and I can be a friend and an ear and all of those things and really lean into you and feel you. And I'm not a therapist either, but it's very bio individualized. I think that's the word. So based on like maybe I have some genetic information, maybe I have some labs. I don't always have to have labs, but even how are you feeling? Who asks you that?
Buddy.
Right? And listens, and then has some really natural things that might be helpful. Not everything's going to help. And it's not a protocol. It's not here's this protocol for this, boom. It's very specific. And I'm not trying to this is anybody in this world of what I'm doing. I think it's really beautiful. And I know it's overwhelming. So that's part of my job too, is to help people feel less.
And to keep it calm. Before we have a few minutes, so I would love for you to talk about one more thing. So, as many things as you want, but one thing in particular I would like for you to touch on. We know that remission nutrition, we know that there is a cost associated with that. I think that you all have done a great job and you've offered layered service. Will you just talk a little bit about the nest with our
Oh,
listeners? Because it's been a minute. And for those who are really wanting to work with Jen and considering finances, I think that this is a beautiful segue into your service delivery that might meet somebody right where they are financially.
yeah, I think that's great. It's a really a big heart project for me. And I run the sessions. We meet the Nest as a membership, and we've done it in 3-month segments. So it's this private group for 3 months, and then in 3 months we renew. So you have the option to renew or not. And so it's really fun and fluid. Every month we have a new theme. We meet twice a month on Zoom. We have a new theme, and sometimes I announce it, sometimes I don't, but it's all on our website. You can learn more. It's $175. You get a private chat through our portal. So with the whole group, which has been really fun because people share recipes, they'll have questions, they can ask their peers. It's a really great way to be in community and to have that support, and then to also dip your toes into what we do at Remission Nutrition, get to know me a little bit. We'll have special guests come on. It's really cool. And I'm always there in the meetings. So I just love it. And it's a really neat thing because oftentimes we feel really alone in this journey.
I
So
agree. And I love that you guys do that. Just a reminder, you can find Jen on the Remission Nutrition site. You can find her through me. I am happy to recommend and give you direct access to her. Lynette would like to know, Jen, before we push on here, what is required to get into the nest? What a great
yeah,
question. How do you
I
get in
love
the
that.
nest? I want
You
to be
can just
part of the
get in.
nest.
So you can go to our website, and Stacy, you can share this link. We
Yep.
are starting a new one in January. So we're just finishing up actually tomorrow, our last one of the year. So we'll start in January, and you can hop on and learn more. Are you going to put it in the chat?
Yeah. Is it Remission Nutrition?
Yeah, and it's
And
under
that's
services, and
under
you'll see
services.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can just send that page. So all you have to do is sign up. It's great. Yeah,
It's
it's awesome.
under services. Thank you for doing that, Jenna. Like I said before, we're all in this space for one reason or another. And when I just feel like it is truly a heart project, I feel like it's service delivery beyond service delivery. And for us, when we work directly with folks who are on the cancering journey, one of the things that we hear a lot is that how expensive it is to have the diagnosis. It is the full-time job that you did not apply for, and oh, by the way, it's going to cost you. And I'm not saying that for Remission Nutrition. I'm talking about all of it. And so our choice selection cannot, in my lifetime, be about how much you can afford. And I just love that you do that for not only our patients, but for those who just really need the support. And it just feels lousy when you have to say, I want that, but I can't do it. So I think the nest is a great, I don't even want to call it a plan B. I'm going to call it plan A and plan A. Decide
Yeah.
where you are and then pick a plan A that works for you if this is something that you're interested in. I have one too. I just want to share, this is my gift. We were talking about, that was my little puppy who had something to say about it as well. For many of you, or whether or not you know or you don't know, I run a business away from Believe Big. And one of the things that I have been very lucky to work on in my career is breath work, is nervous system regulation. And I actually invented a product. It's the Vita Ball. And we've talked about the Vita Ball. I've talked about the Vita Ball in the nest, and I've also talked about the Vita Ball here at Believe Big. However, I wanted to share with you, not that I am super selling the Vita Ball. I just wanted to give you all a gift. I am selling the Vita Ball for my friends at Believe Big at 50% off. You can use the code December50. I will put it in the chat. If you or somebody you know is working on breath work, what this little ball does is a handheld tool with lights and vibration. It also comes with aromatherapy. You hold it in your hand and it actually teaches you breath patterns similar to the one that Jen was explaining. So if you are new to breath work and you're looking for a way to, from ground zero, feel it, touch it, smell it, hold it, and you don't know what you're doing, the Vita Ball was created in honor of my brother, and part of the proceeds go back to Believe Big. So my gift to you is to take half of it off, give you the code December50. Again, zero pressure. I just wanted you to know that I would love for you to work on breath work as well. And if this is less cost prohibitive, I would love to do that for and with you. So I'll put that in the chat. Let's see. Oh, we have a question from beautiful Trudy Rose Hart. I just love saying your name. I'm going to say it over and over again. Trudy Rose Hart, because it just goes beautifully. Jen, what day of the week and times do you meet? Please
That's a good
advise.
question. Yep. And I was going to say we do record if ever you're not able to go. So you always get a recording and handouts and things like that. It is Thursdays we meet. It's usually the second and third, fourth, first. I don't know. I have to look. I think I have them listed, but at 5 p.m. Mountain. So if you're East Coast, that's 7. If you're Pacific, that's 4.
So listen, I am going to bring us to the end by saying this. This is our last food for thought session for the year. I feel so blessed to have worked with all of the oncology nutritionists that I've had the pleasure to work with this year, many from Jen's team. Jen and I have developed a really lovely friendship through this opportunity to serve you all. And from all of us, from Remission Nutrition and Believe Big, we can't do what we do without you. And I know that you count on us too. So for this month, my gratitude is the partnership that we share with all of you, bringing you information that is new, research-based, heartfelt, centric, and just about people wanting people to have better and to heal in a space where it doesn't feel threatening. It brings me a little bit to tears because, like I said, I feel incredibly lucky to do what we do and to serve people just like you all in honor of my family members who have been on the journey, but also thinking of people down the road that I would love to prevent this journey for. So thank you from both of us. If you need to reach Jen, you know that you can have access to her directly. You can go right onto the Remission Nutrition site. If you forget, I'm your girl. You can reach out with an email, stacy@believebig.org. Danielle keeps us straight. Kristen keeps us straight. And from our founder, so much gratitude from Evilise. So thank you for a beautiful year together. I want to wish you a very happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, anything in between. Thank you. Truly. I don't think do we have any questions, Danielle, that I might have missed?
No, I don't see any. Just people are loving everything and are
Yeah.
expressing
Yeah.
gratitude.
Yeah. Take
Mhm.
care of yourselves, my friends. Truly. You deserve it. You get it. Just put your hand on your heart and just love on yourself this month. It'll all still be there in January, I promise. We love you and we'll see you in 2026. Jen, I love you. Thank you so much for being my last session of the year. Truly.
Thank you. This was so special. Thank you all. Happy
Talk to you
holidays.
soon.